Hello! In this video we are learning about pen and ink and the drawing pens. You can check out a box of drawing pens for me. They are fine Sharpies, regular Sharpies, and the bold Sharpies. So here is a fine tip Sharpie. It will be the smallest Sharpie point. Here is the regular tip Sharpie. And here is the bold tip Sharpie. We've got 3 different thicknesses. I will be calling these drawing pens because they are similar to pens we use for drawing images. You can use them for outlining or for some of the techniques I'm going to show you today. The first technique I'm going to show you is called cross-hatching. So if I were to draw a sphere and I wanted to shade it in like how I did with the pencil technique, I could get my drawing pen and I could draw lines. So where my shadow is, the closer I draw my lines, the darker the shadow will be. Now it looks a little scary at first because it's so dark, but I'll show you that it's not too bad. Right now I just have hatch lines because there is just one direction of line. In a minute I will have cross hatch where there's 2 directions. So right now I'm starting to close in on where the light of my sphere will be, and I'm spreading the lines out further. Now where I want it to be darker, I can either come in with hatch lines that are closer together, or I can cross hatch my lines. I love using cross hatching. This is what they do in comic books to develop shadows. And as I go, my lines will just curve around. Where it gets lighter, I'll spread my lines apart further. And there is my value sphere. So that was called hatching and cross hatching. So my pens can be used to add value. They can also be used to just draw really fun things and outline. So I'm going to draw for you a mandala. A mandala is a radial symmetry design. It's where it starts small in the middle and it builds around and around in a circle. It represents wholeness and unity in the universe. So I've got my drawing pens that I'm going to start with, and I think I'll just start with a circle in the middle, and I'm going to build on that. Whatever I do on one side, I'm going to do on the other. I'm trying to make everything even and the same. Now I've done this before, so I can just do this with pen. If you've never done this before, you might want to do this with pencil. Then I'm going to extend some lines. So I'm just starting in the circle and going around. And maybe from these lines, I'm just making this up as I go. I might develop a triangle around it. Maybe from here I've got a curved point. It kind of starts to almost look like a star or a flower depending on your shapes. And I'm just playing with different shapes going around the side. So there's the start of my mandala. I might want to come in and use a thicker Sharpie to add some variety. Maybe I'll go back and these points I'll outline thicker. But I don't want to outline everything thicker. I'll leave some lines thin. If you're making drawings, you can also use these pens to outline. Starting to look like a snowflake. I think I want a smaller pen to add some details. So I'm trying to keep it even as I go around the sides. When you're at home, you can check out how to draw a mandala. They have some pretty cool YouTube videos with some different patterns that you can use. I'm going to stop here so I can show you how to use pen and ink. This is a pen that already has the ink in it. This is liquid ink and a fountain tip pen. This fountain tip pen has no ink in it. It's got a little contraption that will collect the ink from this container and put it onto our paper. Now we've got this little nozzle thing that we don't really need. We don't need to squeeze a whole lot of ink onto our paper. What I did was I put a dot, and I'm going to use that to draw some maybe abstract lines, but my ink was absorbed really quickly. So I'm also going to dip my pen into my ink container, and it'll collect some ink right there so that I can draw with the pen tip. I can do the same thing I did with the Sharpies with cross hatching. And I can do the same thing I did with the mandala. I can add even finer details. If you start to run out of ink on your pen, you just dip it back in and continue to use it. Just know that when you first use it, there might be a big puddle that starts, so it helps to put your pen over to the side. So I dip it and then dot my pen somewhere so that I don't get a big ink puddle. Ooh, see how that line got thicker? All right, be careful with this pen tip because if you push too hard, it will cut into the paper. When you're done, screw the lid on really tight so that it won't spill, and you'll need to wash this pen tip out in the sink. If you don't wash it, our pen tips will be ruined. Now it's your turn to try. Try using the drawing pens with the Sharpies, and then try using the pen and ink. See if you can make your own mandala and see if you can make a shadowed sphere.